I have ran into a few students that used it, decided to major in mechanical engineering over at Eastern as a result, things like that.
Super cool.
So, I've ran into quite a few students that be like, "Hey, you're Mike, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, do you remember me from, the Mind's Eye competition?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so, yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, I just got accepted into Eastern's,
Oh,
mechanical
man.
engineering program. Your stuff really inspired me. This is what I want to be when I grow up."
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. I have a awesome episode for you today. I got to sit down with Mike Marzetta of Altek in Spokane, Washington. This is about a 50-year-old company that has done amazing things. So close to 200 people, 150,000 square feet, more machines that you can count. But they're not just a machine shop. They have diversified and broadened out into injection molding, complex assemblies, even lots of their own R&D work. Cable harnesses, like the whole range of contract manufacturing. And what I loved about this, beyond just the success they've had there and how they pivoted away from more commodity markets about 25 years ago as things started to move offshore. But I love how Mike talks about camaraderie and teamwork and the things that he learned in wrestling in college. And that really just seems to permeate the culture and the way he leads and the way he trains his leaders and just the culture that they have there. So that was one of my biggest takeaways. You can clearly tell it's a really neat company when he describes what it's like to have that sort of teamwork situation there. He actually used the word love, which I think is amazing. You don't often hear that from a successful machine shop leader. So it speaks to his character and speaks to what they're building there. So I know you're going to enjoy the episode. So let's get into it with Mike. Mike, welcome to Machine Shop Mastery. I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I are from the same state and have kind of known each other a little bit over a long time. But I've always admired Alltech and sort of how you built this company, at least from what I've seen on the outside. I've
Thanks.
always been curious about the story and the wide range of services you offer. You've branched out well beyond machining at this point. So yeah, thank you for coming to kind of tell the Alltech story, and let's start by sort of introducing yourself, what Alltech looked like today, and then let's go back 50 so years or so and talk about when your father started it.
Cool. Today we're, I guess, advanced manufacturing, contract manufacturer. We make products for other companies. Most of those products are, in the non-commodity high-tech markets where they've either got regulatory constraints, like you need to be AS9100 certified or ISO FDA certified, or really tight tolerances or something like that. We have a lot of one-stop shop capabilities, doing machining, plastic injection molding, assembly, testing, painting, pad printing, laser etching, bonding, and so
Hmm.
we get a lot of sub-assemblies and full assemblies and, try to give the customer something more than just a part if they're open for that. You got to do it the hard way, or the easy stuff goes to Singapore and China.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we'll get to the backstory. How many? So, I mean, sounds like from that you're mostly serving aerospace, defense, medical, again, those regulated industries.
Yeah.
How many folks do you employ?
We're 200.
And 200,
Yeah.
close to 200. That's a big shop. Square feet, number of machines, or any other sort of metrics to give people some scale?
Yeah, about 150,000 square feet. Too many machines to count. We have machines
Okay,
everywhere.
very
You
good.
were gonna ask that, I could have probably looked it up, but we got
No worries. That's a good sign that you don't know how many machines you have. I
sure.
love that actually. All right. Well, very cool. Impressive. We will get more into, how you got there, but let's go back and start at the beginning. Your father started this business. You've now been running it, I think you said roughly about 25 years or so. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's go back to the very beginning. Why did your dad start a shop? What was he doing prior to that?
A funny story, he was on his way from the East Coast. I wasn't even born yet, with my brother and my mom, and they were heading over to Seattle to get a job at Boeing.
Mm.
And my older brother got sick in Spokane. So they stopped here for a while, decided they liked it.
Oh,
So
wow.
they kind of set up roots here. He was working as a tool and die maker for Columbia Lighting that's, been offshore eons ago. And
Yep.
then when Columbia Lighting got offshore, he took a couple jobs out of town and he was getting tired of traveling, so he decided to start his own mold making tool shop.
Okay.
And it was pretty much the only show in town at the time. Of course, when you're making tooling, you're doing a lot of machining. So they picked up machining, production machining. And then, of course, after a while, when you're making tools and you're shipping those out, you're like, hey, maybe we should buy an injection molding machine and we can keep some of these tools in house and do plastic injection molding.
Hmm.
And that did pretty well for about the first 25 years up until early 2000s when we started getting pummeled by offshore. Most of the products we were making were kind of in the commodity realm. Precor Fitness was one of our
Oh, yeah.
biggest customers. And, just about anybody can do that kind of molding, ABS, really loose
Hmm.
tolerances. And another company called Telect. They're in the telecommunications market, but we were just doing like cable management systems where they're running, nothing too high tolerance or sophisticated. And so, yeah, both Precor and Telect, who were our biggest customers, kind of started migrating offshore and lower cost options and stuff. And that's when we kind of got the hint and decided to go after AS9100 certification and the ISO 14385 is the FDA.
485. Yeah.
485 is that's the FDA certification, and
Yep.
kinda changed our business model a lot. That makes up the bulk of our business now, aerospace, medical, and then those 2 certifications, we have a lot of just technology companies we do business for, like lasers, and we do pretty cool miniature underwater submarine and,
Mhm.
um, some environmental test equipment, and those industries are too small to have their own certifications, of course, but they see that you've got the AS certification or the FDA certifications. They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's somebody we wanna do business with." So, we end up doing all the hard stuff, at least in my opinion, unless you're in a super low cost state or something like that and have some super niche, the hard stuff's where it's at, It's, too
Mhm.
difficult to move to and manage to try to move that to a low cost region somewhere else in the world, and so, kind of been our bread and butter for the last 20 years or so.
If you're looking to increase your spindle uptime without adding any headcount, check out the Hennig workflow automation system. I've seen it. I love it. It's a compact, automated pallet delivery solution that lets you work ahead of your machine so your shop never stops. You can load up to 40 pallets with material, fixtures, programs, and just let the workflow cook. A Henning workflow is designed for high mix machining, works with a wide range of machines, and even with a 125-pound payload on top of a 300 millimeter pallet, yet still takes up less space than most competitors' pallet automation system. That means more production, fewer manual changeovers, really just a practical path to high profit, lights out machining. Learn more about Hennig workflow by visiting hennigworldwide.com/workflow.
You said you've been involved for 25 years. Have you been running the company or were you just involved back then?
Oh, I started, like, I'm coming up almost 30 years with the company and
Okay.
took over as president about 4 or 5 years in to my stint here. Before that, I was doing like running the lean office, lean Six Sigma office and stuff. Been over 25 years since I've been president now.
Okay. So were you instrumental in some of those decisions to kind of move into the more regulated areas of the business?
Yeah, yeah. No, another funny story because nobody wanted to do it. Like
Oh, really?
zero.
Okay. They were just comfortable, things were okay at least, and you wanted to shake things up.
Yeah, well, I could see the writing on the wall with business migrating out of here, and then you look around and say, "What are we gonna replace this business with?" Because it's migrating out at a particular rate, and if you
Yeah.
fast forward that and we don't replace it with anything, then our shop's gonna look like this in a matter of years, and so you're like, "Well, there's a lot of aerospace around here," you know? Being in Washington. So that was an easy call. At the time, we were doing some amount of medical work, but realized we needed the FDA certification to really make a go at that and make it a
Mhm.
core business. So same thing, as commodity work was moving out, we were pulling in non-commodity, high tech, medical technology, and aerospace work. Uh,
Mhm.
Thankfully, at a slightly faster rate than it was leaving.
Okay. So you continued to grow. What did it take to convince everyone that this was the right path?
That was a long time ago.
All right. And it was mostly convincing your dad, I imagine.
Like I explained to you, it's like, okay, well, where's the work going to come from then?
Sure.
Because we're losing pre-core intellect at this rate. We're not bringing anything new in.
Yeah.
Where is it going to come from? So nobody could give a straight answer, a convincing answer as to where we were going to make the offset, what business we were going to bring in to offset the drip of commodity business
Mhm.
leaving. So
Mhm.
they eventually agreed with me, and I ended up writing a very large chunk of the ISO certification documentation, so, they couldn't say no to that.
Sure. Okay. All
So,
right. I like the vision. And back at that time, was it pretty much just machining and injection molding? Were you doing assembly work back in those days?
yeah, we weren't doing much assembly work, but we were doing a lot of painting. We had a handful of structural foam customers, which you don't see much of these days, but
Mhm.
the structural foam is thick, and you put a blowing agent in it, part comes out of the machine, and it looks kinda like an orange peel surface, so you gotta sand it, primer it, sand the primer, put a top
Mm.
coat on it, and then a texture coat on it, and so, we've been doing painting for the structural foam customers for quite a while, that being our finishing department, added assembly and testing and pad printing and laser etching and bonding and everything else since then. Most of it's
Okay.
on customer needs, like customer, "Oh, man, we really need something to be laser etched," and we're like, oh, yeah, we were just looking at buying one of those."
I like it. Very opportunistic. Um, very cool. So when you took over as president, about what size was the company in terms of people or whatever
About
other
half.
metric? About half. Okay, it's about 100 people. So it had gotten pretty sizable doing the more commodity type work.
Yeah, it hasn't
Yeah.
been a complete picnic. I mean, we're, building back up to we've been well over 200 in the past, but the aerospace market's taken a dive the last 5 years. Not only is aerospace
Yeah.
market taking a dive, but we're pretty, we got a lot of eggs in the 737 basket, so we kinda got me over the last 5 years with not just aerospace being slow, but specifically the 737 airframe,
Hmm.
and the problems it's gone through. The industry's mostly recovered, as has the 737. The forecast is still climbing for the 737 as they're getting permission from the FDA to ramp up, and there's a huge backlog and stuff like that. So things are looking pretty good for the future, assuming one of those birds doesn't have another problem.
Yes. Yeah, they've had their share of challenges. As you started to switch into the more regulated industries, and you sounds like you did a lot of the work to actually, again, write the manual and the policies. But just because you get a certification doesn't mean people come flocking to your door. How
Yeah,
did you start to, make the connections, meet the people? Sort of what is your marketing and sales strategy around that pivot?
so that's kind of an interesting one. If you asked anybody around the state or the country to describe Spokane, it was a rural farming community. But they
Hmm.
didn't know there was much manufacturing here, and everything. So we co-founded a group called INWAC, the Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium. Myself and a number of cohorts that own businesses here, all committed to getting AS9100 certified and going out on the road
Mm,
together as a group to brand Spokane as a advanced manufacturing community.
very
And
cool.
it's worked pretty well because 20 years ago, if you asked somebody from Seattle to describe Spokane to you, they'd say, "Oh, it's kind of don't they do a lot of farming over there or anything like that?"
Hmm.
Now, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, Spokane, yeah, they do a lot of high tech manufacturing and aerospace over there, don't they?" And everything. So
Hmm.
just changing minds. I think the strategy worked significantly faster getting a group of us to brand the area than just one
Hmm.
company going out there and go, "Hey, sell to me," because they could come here and, they can get sheet metal done from my friend 2 doors down. They can get, bending done from my buddy that's a mile and a half away. We got our local heat treaters, plating shops to get their NADCAP certifications. So we really kind of put the whole infrastructure in place so they could kind of come to the area and get all their stuff done. I think that worked out pretty good.
Absolutely. Was that whose idea was that?
Me and a handful of people we had a group that was called the Manufacturers Roundtable
Hmm.
going at the time, and it was mostly around workforce development. And then,
Sure.
of course, the economy crashed, and so it's like, well, workforce development isn't a problem right now. Sales and marketing is the problem. So
Yes.
gears and shifted away from workforce development. Not that you can ever completely shift away from workforce development, but at the time, sales was the bottleneck, not workforce development. We spun off INWAC from the manufacturers roundtable with mostly
Hmm.
all the same companies and recruited a few more because it was kind of exciting. And then we rebranded just a couple 2 or 3 years ago into NEMA, just addressing all getting away from just aerospace. NEMA stands for Northwest I-90 Corridor Manufacturing Association. So um, expanding it all to all kind of high tech advanced manufacturing industries,
Yeah.
just a handful of years back, in partially in response to the COVID downfall. It's like, okay, well, not much aerospace to be had right now. We should better better make a shift. So
Hmm.
and it's been a great group.
And you guys have put on a conference, which I've been to several times, right?
Yep, yep. Every year,
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, I love that big picture, longer term thinking. I don't see a lot of shops doing that. So that's definitely a major takeaway. Of course, not every shop is in a rural area, but still, there. If you just take that concept of taking a bunch of like-minded, collaborative, sort of compatible companies and put their collective heads together to go do some bigger initiative or bigger mission, that clearly has been very effective in your case. That's pretty darn
yeah.
cool.
Well, the numbers made it a lot easier too because we could be like everywhere. Because like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, well, this week we got this show, so Altek will hit that one up and hang the NWAC banner, and then Acrofab, you take the next one that's 2 weeks later, and then
Yeah.
HydroFab, you take the next one. So, rather than one company trying to pull that off, we could kind of spread the marketing around under the INWAC banner for
Hmm.
make a lot of tracks really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. How long did it take before you really started seeing traction with, companies like Boeing or whomever else that really started to pay attention and come have meetings and start to flow some work into that group?
Boy, that was a long time ago. It doesn't seem like it took that long. And like I said, we were able to bring in a new business slightly faster than we were losing the commodity business. So I guess
Okay.
that's all that really mattered. I guess I can't. I
Yeah, for sure.
it's been a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, very good. And then, so I know that you've been involved in mind's eye robotics education. I remember that from seeing some of your posts years ago. Is that what some of the kind of workforce development stuff morphed into, or maybe tell us about your involvement in that?
Well, that's kind of my passion project. When you're doing contract manufacturing, you're making product for everybody else, and you can get creative on the process side, but you don't really get to be real creative on how the product's made. That's kind of the genesis of a pretty long process I went through with my wife on trying to define who we wanted to be when we grew up. And we started with a list of values about this long. And over about a
Mm.
6-month period, got it boiled down to two. I wanted to make a positive difference in the world and have fun doing it. And
Oh, there you go.
we didn't really okay, now that we've got that, now let's start brainstorming a whole bunch of ideas that fit those, and this concept of mind's eye, which is a building system to build high-tech stuff out of. So we have building systems and online curriculum for drones. We have a self-driving tractor that'll hold 2 meters of accuracy. We've got a self-driving Mars rover that uses LiDAR, and it kinda picks up on the obstacles, and it'll use the LiDAR to weave its way through it. We've got some programming stuff in there, all cool stuff, all toys I wish I had when I was younger. That just kinda genesis out of our, desire to make a difference and have fun doing it, and, um, we do all the manufacturing here at Altek for everything mechanical. We have to outsource the electronics, of course. That's been, a real fun venture.
Tell us a little bit more about it. I mean, is it like, do students come to your business and build stuff, or do you hold? Is it in the schools, or yeah, just how does it actually play out?
We sell it to schools. There's different
You sell it to schools. Okay.
Yeah, there's different labs. We get everything from on the low end to, like an electric car where they make an electric car and even build the motor and understanding how the windings work and the commutator works. And then we've got one that teaches them C++ programming, and then go up to our drones and our self-driving rover and our self-driving tractor that holds 2 centimeter precision. But yeah, the schools buy it. We do have some hobby folks that buy it here and there, like one at a time. But usually when a school buys, they'll buy like 10 or 15 and
Got it.
outfit a class and have like one lab per maybe 4 students.
Oh,
And
very
all of
cool.
them come with online curriculum. So they've
Hmm.
got building instructions, but they've got curriculum that explains how the technology works, and we run them through exercise so they really understand the mechanics of an accelerometer. They understand the mechanics of a gyro, PID, how those things like really work. So they're not just like going out and buying a buy and fly drone and go, "Oh, I'm an expert," which without learning anything about the mechanics of why and how it worked. Pretty in depth curriculum for everything.
Hmm.
We push it down to the scientific level of Newtonian laws behind a gyro, and here's the gyro code. So manipulate the I value and see how your little gimbal works. Once you manipulate the I value and stuff, and so they get a real good immersion into the into the core technology behind the kits that they're building.
And how many schools have gotten these kits, or how many kits have you sold over the years?
A lot. I don't know,
A lot. Okay.
hundreds,
A lot. S-
maybe thousands. I'd have to
Wow.
get a count.
And this entire thing was your brainchild, or you and your wife, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I just pulled up the website, which is mine's letter I,
yeah,
education.com, if people want to check it out. You have multiple patents, it's in multiple countries. Like, this is a full on thing. This
yeah.
is this is not just a little hobby side thing.
No,
This is wild. Very cool. Is it all run out of Altec there?
yeah.
So neat. Wow. That is awesome.
Thanks.
Have you had any full circle moments where, like, the local, I don't know if you've given, if any of the local Spokane schools have used them, and then those students, like, think they wanna go into advanced manufacturing and you've hired them? Has that ever happened?
No, but I have ran into a few students that used it, decided to, major in mechanical engineering over at Eastern as a result, things like that.
Super cool.
So, I've ran into quite a few students that be like, "Hey, you're Mike, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh, do you remember me from, the Mind's Eye competition?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so, yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, I just got accepted into Eastern's,
Oh,
mechanical
man.
engineering program. Your stuff really inspired me. This is what I wanna be when I grow up." And they're like, "Cool, man. Way to go." Well,
That
you know
that is awesome. That is, yes, talk about doing good in the world. That is, super neat.
You can't spell high end without DN. If you're serious about taking your shop to the next level, it might be time to stop thinking in terms of good enough and start thinking in terms of capability, flexibility, and my favorite, automation. DN Solutions is helping manufacturers move into true high end machining with their SMX multitasking series, the DVF 5 axis machines, and advanced automation solutions designed for shops that want to run smarter, faster, and more competitively. The SMX platform gives you the ability to combine multiple operations into one setup, reducing handling, improving accuracy, and helping you get complex parts out the door faster. Their DVF 5 axis lineup delivers the precision, rigidity, and confidence manufacturers need for today's demanding aerospace, medical, and high performance applications. And when you pair those machines with automation, you're not just buying equipment, you're building a more scalable business. High end parts, high end capability, high end thinking. Because you can't spell high end without DN. Learn more at dnsolutions.com.
I wanna go back to those core values. You said it was a multi-month process to go from a long list down to 2, and of course, that's helped spawn Mind's Eye. How have you incorporated that into the core Altec business? And was that your first time having sort of established core values? And how has that affected your culture and recruitment or anything else that you do? Just to add a little more background, core values often comes up in these podcasts interviews, and I didn't originally think they would, but there seems to be a commonality that a lot of, more successful, well-established businesses have core values, and and some of them have very deep, ingrained into the way they run their business, and it affects their hiring and their firing and decision making. And I think there's some causality there, not just correlation. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about that in your business.
Yeah, well, this is probably prior to that, but I've got a pretty in-depth sports background with just, doing sports of some sort. Wrestled at the University of Minnesota, the D1 level, was All-American there. So when I came into business, I mean, the funny story, I remember I stayed on at Minnesota to get my master's degree because I didn't learn a whole lot of business in my undergraduate. It was sort of like I got a major in wrestling and a minor in business, if that,
Okay.
because
Okay.
the wrestling's a pretty demanding sport. Just got to keep that
Yes.
C plus average to keep your scholarship. so I uh,
Understood.
so I
Understood.
went to get my master's degree, and I was taking this class called team building, where this lady was teaching us team building, and
Hmm.
we're getting to do agendas and goals and roles. and how to run a meeting and da 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 da. And it's probably 3 quarters into this class, and I'm like, raising my hand. And I'm like, when do we get into the team building part? She's like, we've been doing team building the whole quarter. She gave me a B. That was my only B in the whole my whole master's degree. I got A's and everything else. And I'm like, this isn't teamwork. I mean, teamwork is like, where's the camaraderie? Where's the, you watch my back, I watch yours. Like, you push me, I'll push you. I'm gonna make you
Mhm.
better today in practice. You're gonna make me better today in practice. And I got to go out and win for the team. And da 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 da. And she's just like, that's not in here. And
Mhm.
when I came to Altech, I carried that sports background with me. My father was a fabulous businessman, had very different ideas about how
Mhm.
people are treated and, what can be accomplished with high level of camaraderie and stuff. To the best of my ability, I've, attempted to run the company like a sports team because I think it's a really good culture to copy. I've been on teams all my life with that had, great camaraderie and no talent. And, those weren't too bad. Those were pretty fun, except for on game day. But we were tight knit though. And then I've been on teams where, you just had all kinds of talent. On paper, you should be number one, but we're missing the camaraderie, and there's a big gap there. If you don't have the camaraderie and the teamwork, it doesn't matter if you have the talent. And I've been on teams that have had both, so I've seen the three phases. If you got talent, you got the tight knit camaraderie, you can win the Super Bowl. There's a different feeling. You can see it in all those winning teams, whether it's the WNBA championship or the Super Bowl, and they hand the microphone to the person and they got tears in their eyes. That's how you know they're not faking. But I
Mhm.
love my teammates. These guys are my brothers and my sisters, and I love the fans. And and the whole community came together, and everybody just looks after one another like a family. And it's the same. Doesn't matter what sport it is. As soon as they hand
Yeah.
the microphone to that person, they're going to say almost the same thing as
Yeah.
it's the ingredients to success. And love is a big part of it. You get this bond with your teammates, and you get a love developed with your teammates. And I can tell you, especially from wrestling, there's things I couldn't have gotten myself to do, but because it was for the team, I went out and I did it. Or like you'd have this, really tight match coming up, and you look up at the team score, and you want our team to win. And I'm ranked third in the nation, and he's ranked fourth in the nation, and I got to win this. And I'm all nervous, and then I'm thinking, okay, I just got to win this for the team. And so all my nervousness goes away because I'm doing it for the team. It's not for me, and it takes you to another level. And I've tried my hardest to bring that into the company, and it seems to have worked pretty good. In this labor shortage scenario that we've got, I hate to brag, but quite good on the recruiting because people
Mhm.
know where the best places to work are in a small community like Spokane. And I usually go out, after about a month, I see a new face, and I talk to them, be like, "How do you like it here?" I'm like, "Oh God, it's great. Everybody's so helpful and friendly and everything, and they treat you, God, they treat you like they're grasping for the word, and like they treat you like people. They treat you like a person." And of course, my canned response is always like, "That's awful convenient, seeing as how you are a person." And we have a good laugh like that. Yeah, I've never worked any place that treated you like a number, but a lot of our workforce have,
Yeah.
and they can describe it to you.
Mhm.
And I don't ever want to be a part of that, and it's just like, it's, it's like, so what did you get treated like before? It's like, well, every other job I've worked at, they treat you like a number. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they explain it to you like, ugh, yeah, no wonder why you quit. You know,
Mhm.
what could be worse? Thinking
Mhm.
about retire early. So,
That
yeah, so it's worked out pretty good.
absolutely. What a great answer. That was way better than I was I was expecting. Wow. And how does that translate? into a business setting, especially an advanced manufacturing setting like the one you're running? That people focus. I mean, I'm sure we could someone listening could extrapolate and imagine, but for you, like, how does that really land? What are the things that you
Yeah.
do that,
Well, there's a lot of like super flawless things that, there's a lot of fist bumps and high fives, instead of handshakes, a little less formal with the culture. We encourage people to build strong relationships for like when you go and you're talking to somebody and talking business, take that extra 3 or 5 minutes and get to know that person as a person. Figure
mm,
out what they're interested in, what they like to talk about. Maybe they have a photography hobby, or they love their family, or they love vacationing. But, just get to know that person as a person and just let them know that you're interested in them as a person and not just there to exchange business and walk away. Different things like that. You can see the difference. I get a lot of people that tour here can see the big difference. They're like, wow, you guys have a great team atmosphere. And I'm like, oh, how could you tell just by that tour we went through? He's like, well, everybody looked up and said hi.
mm, mhm,
As most places you walk through and the boss walks through, everybody keeps their head down. I'm like, they do? I'm
right,
like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's interesting, you know. And I'm like, you could tell that we have a good team atmosphere just by touring,
mhm,
people looking up with a smile on their face and giving you a nod or a
mhm.
or something like that.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
and like that makes all the difference in the world, I guess.
That's wonderful. That is very cool. Even small I mean, Spokane's not tiny, but, even communities like that, the word gets out. It's so your lack of a problem with recruiting people is, do you feel like that's largely just sort of word of mouth? People share it with their friends or their neighbors or their family members, and then they wanna come work there too? Or do you also do, like, formal outreach into the
Yeah, we do
community
formal
spons
outreach, everybody's around the area is mostly familiar with like Mind's Eye and what we do in the community. We do a lot of other community activities, but I'd say our best recruiting tools are people. Like
Mhm,
in an opening, like, hey, there's an opening over here on the varsity team, bro. Come on over.
right,
Probably just word of mouth. If we were in Seattle, I don't know if we'd get lost in the shuffle or not, but, there's just
sure.
a small handful of decent sized manufacturers in Spokane. And so, I presume that a lot of it's just word of mouth. And, when you're in tight knit industries like plastic injection molding and machining, where all the machinists in Spokane know each other, and all the injection molding technicians in Spokane know each other. Word gets out, I'm assuming.
Mhm. Okay, excellent. That's awesome. You talked about, before you took over, being in the lean office. Tell us about some of your lean initiatives or how that's baked into the operations, the culture. Not everyone talks about having a lean office.
Yeah, we do Lean and Six Sigma workshops and training and stuff like that. We've got a couple coming up that I'm leading over the next few weeks, targeting different areas of the company for improvement. We've been doing it for a long time, but continuous improvement. There's always an area we can target and make it that much better. Usually, you just start off, you identify an area, scope out the area or the process, assemble a team that works within that process or area, give them some training, create a vision, action plan, let them run with the action plan because it's their action plan, give them time, support, resources to get it done. And then, of course, you want to standardize it so it doesn't go back to its previous, less improved form. That's worked pretty well for us over the years. Scores good on the employee involvement card, scores good on the productivity and quality card as well.
And how did you get into that in the first place?
Nobody wants you to walk into their area and you tell them how to improve it,
Right.
so give them the tools through the training let them create the vision and the action plan and execute it, and they own it. But, it's just far more effective than me going and be like, "Hey, you need to fix that and fix that and fix that." Nobody likes that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, playing in somebody else's sandbox. Just give them the tools so they can fix their own sandbox.
I love that. I totally agree. And is this the way that you approach just sort of general employee empowerment, advancement, ownership? I mean, obviously, at this point, with close to 200 people, I'm sure you have a well-run sort of org structure with layers of leadership. But that wasn't always the case. You built that. Maybe talk a little bit about how you built that and how your approach to lean and employee empowerment informs how you've just grown the company and the team.
Well, usually once a year, we'll do some leadership development training for our people. It's usually written internally, to get them to the next level of wherever they are. We also have annual summits where we bring everybody into a great big room, all of them, and they break them out on tables and they're cross functional tables. And, it's kind of modeled it after the end of year sports banquet, or we kind of you know, in sports, you always have the end of year banquet where you hand out all the awards and everything and talk about how the season went. But also, there's a little bit of State of the Union in there as to where we're going next year. And then there's a heavy involvement piece where it's very interactive, where we'll hand out question sheets to all the tables and have them talk about it at their tables and then pass around the microphone, let them report out on, you know, their take on where we're headed next year. And then we collect all that information that helps inform where we're going next year. And you automatically get the alignment, right there live. And
Hmm.
yeah, we do some skills training. We've always done skills training. We're trying to take it to the next level and kind of formalize it into a Altek University. That's going to take a little while to get that whole structure put in place. A lot of investment in our people. Always looking for ways to increase involvement and value. Our supervisors, if they've been here for a long time, have been through numerous training cycles for leadership and team building. I've got a pretty good toolbox on how they ought to be treating their people, and
Hmm.
it kind of resonates across the company culture.
Hmm. Wow. Have most of your leaders been homegrown, or have you hired in leaders, or some of each?
Some of each. I'd say most of them are homegrown. Um,
Nice.
sometimes we need to hire from the outside on an occasion. They go through a very advanced screening process, of course, to make sure that they fit. And if we make a mistake, we don't sit around on it very long.
Okay. Decisive action.
One bad apple
Yes.
in the right place can screw up 20 years of culture development.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you brought in the sort of end of season team dinner idea and are applying that into the business. You've certainly brought a lot of what you learned in sports into Alltech.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Sports are fun. They're supposed to be. Although wrestling's
Yeah.
probably the least fun. You just work your butt off and then you get your hand raised and be like, "Yay! Okay, back to work."
Yes. I wrestled for a couple of years in high school, so I have some inkling of what you mean. Those practices were absolutely brutal. Um,
You get your hand raised. It's all worth it.
yes, absolutely. Hey, it's Paul from Making Chips. If you've been burned by recruiters who don't understand manufacturing, you are not alone. That's exactly why we created Hire MFG Leaders. We're not just recruiters, we're current and former shop owners, and we know what it takes to lead in this industry. Whether you're hiring your next operations leader, sales manager, or production supervisor, we'll help you find someone who actually fits. Learn more at makingchips.com/hire. So you now, I think before we hit record, you said it's now sort of 2.5 generations in. So tell us about the half generation and what's coming next in terms of family, you know, yeah, family succession or what have you.
Well, yeah, our board is made up of my siblings.
Okay.
The eldest is my sister, who's 7 years younger than me. The other three, two of them are twins from my dad's second marriage.
Hmm.
So, they're 18, 19, 20 years younger than me. They're my brothers, but they're about the age of nephews. The nephews would,
Okay.
and then of course, two or three, like my sister has a son majored in computer science and he's working here now. Yeah, a lot of Marzettas running around here.
Do you have kids in the business?
No, my kids aren't in the business.
Okay.
At
Okay.
least not right now.
Yeah, you never know. I've heard plenty of guests that thought they'd never be in the business and then they got pulled in and ended up loving it. So,
Yeah, they
okay,
can
very
they
cool.
can only take so many Marzettas. I mean, I don't want to overwhelm them with a whole slew of Marzettas.
Well, from what you've been describing how you're building this business, I'm not sure more would be worse, but it's always good to stay humble. Um, what you mentioned it's not always been a picnic. Running a precision machining company, let alone someone as diverse as what you guys do, I know has got to be incredibly challenging at times. You've mentioned some of, a couple economic downturns. What are some of the biggest hurdles you have faced and overcame, and what's challenging you today?
Well, certainly the COVID and its effect on the aerospace industry. Aerospace is our
Hmm.
biggest segment, and then having so many eggs in the 737 basket and the problems with the 737
Hmm.
been plaguing us for the last 5 years, and feel like we're finally rising above those, and things are stabilizing in both the industry and for the 737, and the numbers are going up for the 737. But it's been a fairly tumultuous few years, especially with the
Hmm.
737, where they're like, "Oh, okay, I think we got it fixed. Let's ramp up." And then, "Oh god, a door fell off. Okay, ramp back down. Okay, we got
Yeah.
it fixed now. Ramp up. Oh yeah, the FAA found some wiring problems they don't like. Ramp back down. Okay, we got, it's just,
Yeah.
you know, just like, oh." Unfortunately, I know Washington is not the best state to do business with in the union. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of people say, and I haven't done the math, but we're the highest taxed state, and the legislators should take note to that because we've got companies like local companies like Servitron, which is an electronics manufacturer, 250 people that's moving to California.
Moving to California.
Yes. So, I mean,
That's
that's gotta tell you something right
that
there.
says something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But,
thought you were going to say Idaho or something like
no,
that.
no, California. Yeah,
Huh.
that's gotta, the light bulbs should be popping in the legislators' heads when that happens. But, frankly, this is over here in Spokane, and I'm not sure if they even notice. I will say the state has one really good program, and that's work share, shared work,
Hmm. Hmm.
where, a lot of states don't have that. So when we're ramping up and ramping down, how it works is you can ramp your people down to 20 hours a week, and the government will pay them unemployment on the other 20 hours a week they miss. So they're almost taking home what they were taking home when they were working full time.
Hmm.
And it's a pretty good deal. Well, we got a lot of volunteers. Nobody really squawked too much. They're like, "Man, I can almost take home what I take home and work full time. I'll sign up for that." And that really saved our skin during the ramp up, ramp down, ramp up, ramp.
Mhm.
I mean, these journeyman level folks, whether they're machinists, mold technician, or maintenance guys, or you name
Yeah.
it, you can't lay those guys off
Yeah, and
or
expect to get
gal
them back.
expect to get them back. So that kind of saved our skin. So one kudos for Washington, but
Alright. Yep.
that they ought to be looking at their tax structure because there's companies moving out to states like California, which should be getting the attention of somebody,
Mhm.
and they should be scratching their head and wondering why and looking at the numbers.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, yep, and I remember using shared work at our shop after 9/11 and after, the economic crisis, 2009 or 2008-9, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a handy program.
it was a good program, yeah. You're in a growth cycle again with aerospace ramping back up and other things. What are the challenges today?
The biggest challenge is maintaining quality and productivity with new oncoming staff. And, you're ramping up really fast, and we got to get those folks trained in and enculturated to, the Altec standard in a very quick period of time to meet the increased demand. And that hasn't been without its pitfalls. And they're just not familiar with the product yet.
Sure.
We do standard work instructions and everything, and you got to read them real careful. It'll tell you what to look for and quality areas and stuff. But some percentage is still triable. Yeah, and so heavy focus on quality and productivity with the new oncoming staff. It's been hard to keep up with when you're ramping up at the rate that we're ramping up at.
What kinda growth rate are you seeing?
It's pretty steep. Just look at the aerospace growth numbers and the 737 ramp up schedule.
You're
Yeah.
mirroring that closely, it sounds like. Okay. And so what are you doing to get people up to speed faster? You said standard work, which of course is foundational. Um, but yeah, anything that you feel like is working or that you're trying lately?
Just dumping a lot of time and training into the folks and keeping a good eye on them and monitoring progress and stuff like that. And there's a lot of them,
Hmm.
so we get spread out pretty thin, making sure the new staff's getting all the attention it needs.
Do you have employees that are just completely dedicated to training, or is it more spread
It's
out like than that?
completely dedicated to training. We rely a lot on the supervisors and the team leads. A significant portion of the role is training and development, coaching,
Hmm.
not just
Okay.
telling people what to do.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Just sort of like the sports team culture.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's definitely the theme here.
yeah.
Um,
That's ingrained into their job descriptions. They should always be coaching and developing their people. We're kind of at breakneck rates at this point with the coaching and development, working a lot of overtime, a lot of pressure on the leads and the supervisors and the managers to get their people up to speed immediately.
sure, sure. So as we kind of start to wrap up here, I just wanted to ask. I had read that you guys won last year a Manufacturing Excellence Award for Innovation from the local Chamber of Commerce. Tell us about
Oh,
that.
yeah. I don't know. Word got out, I guess.
Okay. Anything that was particularly notable about the innovation that you're doing there?
We've always been pretty innovative, always developing new processes. We're working on this in mold electronics where we can do actuators and stuff without where it tracks your finger, but there's no moving parts, so you don't get like
Oh wow.
um, bacteria or anything inside the cracks. Doing a lot of R&D on structural molding. Using new and different plastics that has carbon fiber. Then the when it gets heated, it creates chemical bonds with it, and reinforcing that with aluminum inserts and stuff like that. So we're always trying to stay a step ahead of our customers' needs and say, "Hey, check this new mousetrap out. This might be good for this new project that you're trying to do, and it's twice as light and twice as strong. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think?" So we've always got something new we're cooking up.
Mm-hmm.
Not
That's
everything,
cool.
not everything flies in the industry. Some of the stuff we come up, we'll find a customer that wants to be the guinea pig and try it out, and it works out well, and we end up using it on a lot of other customers.
That's really interesting. So it's not you're just not doing build to print. You're actually doing your own R&D and then taking those learnings and bringing it to your clients as a
Yeah,
proposition of
yeah, we'll
how to
do
improve their
sample parts
products.
and stuff, and
Wow.
do like a prototype mold and say, "Here, do your stress test on this to tell us what you think.
That is really neat. Okay.
Half as
I could
light, twice as strong.
yeah.
You know, tell me what you think. Maybe it's a good fit for your project."
Yeah. I could
Mhm.
see why you'd get an award for that, for
Yeah,
innovation. That is really cool.
yeah. Aerospace is always trying to get it lighter.
Mhm. Of
We're
course.
we're always looking to try to provide them a solution that's outside the box that nobody's done yet. It's kind of a theme. We try to do the things that nobody else wants to do or can do.
Mhm.
Pushes us into a lot of things. Not all of them succeed, but some of
Sure.
them end up taking off in the industry and doing really well.
Very cool. Well, I would enjoy talking to you for many more hours, but our time is coming to a close here, Mike. This has really been a cool conversation. I love what you're building there. I love how you related, all the sports and the teamwork and the camaraderie. I love that you use the word love. Quite honestly, when you're talking about teamwork and bonding with the team together and your people, it's very cool. That's not a word that comes up in every conversation. So I appreciate that.
No, can't help it.
Well, that speaks to who you are and your character. So that's a great lesson for those listening. So, Mike, if people want to learn more about Alltech or connect with you in any way, where would you direct them?
altk-inc.com.
Perfect. It's a beautiful website. You have a very impressive building that clearly there's a drone picture of. Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking this time to share what you're doing there, and congrats on all the success and just the way you're building the company. It's obviously very virtuous, and congratulations on it.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks
Yeah,
for having me. Appreciate it.
you bet. Well, all right, Metalworking Nation. Hope you love that one. I'm sure you will. Thanks for joining us for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.